There are some movies that just sort of stick with you, the ones you watch as a kid, maybe again later, and suddenly, bam, it hits different.
Yeah, like it grows with you or something. You see new things.
Exactly. And today, we're doing a deep dive into one of those movies. John Hughes, The Breakfast Club. I mean, 40 years later, and people still call it the greatest teen drama ever.
It's pretty incredible, right?
It really is. It came out in 1985, huge cultural moment. The setup seems simple.
Mm.
5 kids, total opposites athlete, princess, brain, criminal, basket case, Saturday detention.
Sounds basic on paper.
Right. But our sources, CBR, Baylor Lariat, Screen Rant, you name it, they all point out just how incredibly deep and relatable it actually is.
And that's really our mission today, isn't it?
Yeah.
To unpack why it still hits so hard. It's definitely not just nostalgia, though that's part of it, sure.
Okay.
We want to explore how it just nailed the raw truth of being a teenager, how it smashed those stereotypes, and why its ideas about identity and, fitting in still feel so relevant.
Plus, dig into some of those great behind-the-scenes stories.
Oh, yeah, there are some good ones. And its whole cultural footprint.
So let's get into it. What made The Breakfast Club so different back in '85? Teen movies then were mostly like Porky's-style comedies or big adventures like Back to the Future?
Right, lots of slapstick or fantasy.
Yeah.
This film,
Yeah.
it was about something else entirely.
Yeah.
Sources talk about its unflinching honesty. For maybe the first time, you had teenagers on screen really admitting they were scared or insecure, not just the perfect kid or the total screw-up caricature.
That vulnerability. And it worked, right? 87% on Rotten Tomatoes is nothing to sneeze at, but the real impact was that feeling of like, wow, someone gets it.
Exactly, that feeling of being seen. And the timing, if you think about it, was pretty critical.
How so?
Well, the mid-'80s, the Reagan era, there was this big push for traditional values, suburban success, a lot of pressure on kids.
Right. The achievement culture.
Yeah, and pop culture was only just starting to kind of reflect that maybe teenagers weren't totally buying it, that they felt misunderstood.
So Hughes was plugging directly into that current.
Totally.
Okay.
He'd already done 16 Candles, so he had his finger on the pulse. But what's really interesting is Hughes himself, a boomer, felt his own generation got all the attention. He said they'd sucked up so much attention and these kids were forgotten. He saw Breakfast Club almost as a mission to show what he was seeing around him, especially in suburban Illinois.
A mission. Wow, that adds a layer. It wasn't just making a movie, it was advocacy almost.
In a way, yeah. Giving voice to that overlooked feeling. And that's why it felt like such a mirror for so many people, reflecting the pain, the joy, all that messy stuff of being a teen. It showed, real human problems.
So, okay, the film sets up these 5 classic archetypes, right? Bender the criminal, Claire the princess, Andrew the athlete, Brian the brain, Allison the basket case. They walk in totally defined by those labels.
Yeah, total stereotypes at first glance.
But over the day, those lines just dissolve. How does Hughes actually pull that off? How does he break down those walls?
Well, that's the core of it, I think. The script is just brilliant because it doesn't flinch from the darkness under the surface. It digs in. By the end, they're not labels anymore. They're these really complicated, flawed, and vulnerable people.
And it gets specific. It's not just vague teen angst.
Exactly. Like Bender's whole rebel act, it looks like just anger at first.
Right, just lashing out.
But then you find out it's a shield. It's his way of coping with horrific domestic abuse from his dad. He even shows that cigar burn. Challenging Vernon, the principal, is safer than challenging his actual father.
God, that's heavy. And Claire the princess, her issues are different but just as deep, aren't they?
Completely different world, same depth of pain. She's dealing with emotional manipulation from her parents, being used as a pawn, leaves her feeling totally insecure, abandoned, really. So she uses her popularity like a weapon, to hide how lonely she actually feels. She's terrified of losing that status because it's maybe the only validation she gets.
That idea of weaponized popularity.
Yeah.
Sharp. And Andrew the jock seems like he has everything figured out.
On the surface. But he's crushed by his dad's pressure to be a winner. Always. That awful thing he did, taping Larry Lester's buns together.
Yeah.
He admits he did it just to get his dad's approval. And he hates himself for it. It shows that pressure from parents, from peers, defining him.
It's all about the masks they wear versus what's underneath. Brian the brain fits that too.
Oh, absolutely. The academic pressure on him is immense. He reveals he contemplated suicide over one bad grade. Shaw class.
Yeah. Terrified of his parents' reaction, the social fallout. It really speaks to that intense pressure some kids feel.
And Allison, the quiet basket case?
Yeah, she's maybe the most mysterious at first. But she opens up about feeling completely forgotten by her parents, just invisible.
And she wasn't even supposed to be in detention.
Right. She says she went because she had nothing better to do. She was just craving any kind of attention. It's heartbreaking. It really is. And that's the film's power, isn't it? It takes what could be a light comedy and turns it into this really potent, sometimes dark look at struggles kids face but maybe can't talk about.
For sure. And that connection they find, that unity, it feels real because it's fragile. It's called Fleeting and Fragile in One Source. It's not some magic fix. It's just a moment of honesty.
That fragility makes it authentic. Okay, so the story is powerful, but the way it was made is also part of the magic, right? How much was planned, how much just happened.
Oh, definitely. The making of the film is fascinating. Hughes made some really bold choices, like shooting on a pretty small budget, about $1 million.
Wow.
Mostly over the course of one day in the story, and basically in one single location, that high school library, which, fun fact, wasn't a real library. It was a set built inside a gymnasium at Maine North High School.
A set? No way. So that bottle episode feel, keeping them all contained, that was deliberate.
Absolutely deliberate. It forced the audience and the actors to focus entirely on the dialogue, the relationships, the performances. Super unusual for the 80s, which is all about big action and spectacle.
And that focus on performance paid off. I heard a lot of it was improvised.
A surprising amount, especially that big group therapy scene, where they all pour their hearts out. A lot of that was almost entirely improvised by the cast.
Seriously?
Yeah. Hughes let them bring their own understanding of being teenagers to it. It made those moments feel incredibly raw and real.
Got any examples? Specific lines?
Sure. Judd Nelson came up with Bender's insult, Neo-Maxi Zoom Dweeby, on the spot.
Like classic.
And Anthony Michael Hall suggested Brian's line about his fake ID. So I can vote. Little touches like that give it that authentic, lived-in feel.
Okay, spill some of the behind-the-scenes gossip. I heard Judd Nelson was intense.
Chuckles. Yeah, you could say that. Nelson was 25 playing a high schooler, and he apparently stayed in character as Bender off camera too, which led to some real friction. Sources say he bullied Molly Ringwald relentlessly at points. Hughes almost fired him.
No.
Yeah, but the story goes the other cast members actually banded together and convinced Hughes to keep him. And get this, before filming, Nelson supposedly went undercover at a high school, pretended to be a student, and asked kids for rides if they'd buy him beer.
That's method acting taken to an extreme.
Yeah.
What about Molly Ringwald? She was so young.
Only 16. But she had a lot of influence. Hughes really valued her opinion, apparently. He'd rewrite scenes if she didn't like them.
Really?
Yeah, and she even apparently objected to an actress cast as a gym teacher, and Hughes let that actress go. Also, interestingly, Molly Ringwald almost played Allison, the basket case role.
Wow, and Ali Sheedy, who did play Allison.
She said she found Allison easy to play because that's how I felt on the inside when I was in high school. Just felt that alienation. And she actually suggested the opening quote from David Bowie's Changes.
And these children that you spit on.
That's the one. Perfect, right?
So perfect. Even the title itself has a backstory.
It does. It wasn't originally The Breakfast Club. Hughes heard a friend's son talking about Saturday detention, calling it The Breakfast Club. Hughes loved it.
Way better than the other working titles, right? Detention or The Lunch Bunch?
Yeah, The Lunch Bunch definitely doesn't have the same impact.
Any other weird production details?
A couple fun ones. The pot they smoke. Oregano. Allison's dandruff that she makes snow with. Parmesan cheese.
Parmesan, oh, nice.
And imagine filming those intense emotional scenes. The library set was apparently boiling hot because of the lights, like up to 110 degrees Fahrenheit sometimes. They were literally sweating through the drama.
Okay, sweating out the angst. Let's talk about that ending. It's so iconic, but also kind of ambiguous. It leaves you wondering what happens Monday morning.
Totally ambiguous. On purpose.
You have Brian's essay, Sincerely Yours, The Breakfast Club, and that Simple Minds song kicks in. Don't you forget about me. It's just burned into pop culture. So what does that ending really mean for the film's legacy?
Well, it really hammers home that theme about connection versus social structures, right? The song itself is about hoping they don't forget each other,
Yeah.
that they can hold on to that moment of honesty when they go back to their cliques.
But there's that doubt. Claire even says it, I don't know if I'll acknowledge you on Monday.
Exactly. That fear is real. Some critics, like BFI, point out it feels maybe more like a respite than a revolution. Like detention was a break, but the school hierarchy might just snap back into place.
Which makes it feel more true, maybe?
Yeah.
And that final shot, Bender's fist pump?
Improvised too, right?
Yeah, Judd Nelson just did it. And it's often interpreted as Bender realizing he doesn't have to be defined by his dad's abuse, that he's found something positive, a connection.
Okay, but we have to talk about the makeover.
Yeah.
Claire giving Allison the princess treatment to get Anders' attention. That part feels awkward now.
It definitely does. It's probably the most criticized part of the film today.
Yeah.
The argument is it sends a really bad message. Like, you have to conform, be conventionally pretty to be valued, or find romance. Right. It kind of undermines the whole be yourself theme.
It does feel that way. You could argue it reflected the pressures of the time. Maybe Allison thought she needed to do that. But yeah, it hasn't aged well compared to the film's core messages about inner worth. It shows even Hughes wasn't immune to the norms back then.
Fair enough. A complex legacy. I heard Hughes actually wanted to do sequels.
He did. He talked about revisiting the characters every 10 years or so, see where they ended up.
What happened?
Well, apparently some falling out with Judd Nelson, Molly Ringwald wanting to do more adult roles. It just never came together. But here's a wild tidbit. Carl the janitor, actor John Capellos, said there was a much darker alternate ending discussed.
Oh. Darker how?
Like, flash forward. Brian's a stressed-out stockbroker who dies young. Claire's an unhappy housewife. Bender's in prison.
Whoa, that's bleak. Totally different feel than the hopeful ambiguity we got.
Completely different. Glad they went the way they did, I think.
Me too. So, looking back, what's the film's biggest influence on movies and TV since?
I mean, it basically redefined the T-drama.
Yeah.
It showed you could make a compelling, successful movie focused just on dialogue and character, not action.
Paved the way for a lot of later stuff.
Absolutely. Think The Edge of 17, Lady Bird, Perks of Being a Wallflower, even TV shows like Freaks and Geeks or maybe even Euphoria owe something to its bottle episode structure and focus on teen interior lives.
So, a huge influence, but bittersweet, you said.
Yeah, bittersweet, because while we celebrate it, it's also a reminder that, geez, 40 years on, so many of those core struggles, mental health, bullying, parental pressure, trying to fit in, are still huge issues for teens. And Molly Ringwald herself pointed out, looking back, how incredibly white the cast is. She hoped any future take would bring in more diversity to reflect, what high school actually looks like for more kids.
That's a really important point. So, The Breakfast Club, it's way more than just a nostalgia trip. It feels like this enduring exploration of the human condition, just focused through that intense lens of high school. It reminds you that under all the labels we stick on people, or ourselves, there are these complex individuals just trying to figure things out, looking for connection.
Absolutely. I think that's why it worked and why it still works. It made millions of people feel less alone. It validated their secret struggles, whether they felt like the brain, the jock, the princess, the rebel, the basket case, or, more likely, some messy mix of all of them.
It saw that hidden part.
Yeah. So here's maybe a final thought to chew on. In our world now, so much about online profiles, curated images. How does this movie's message about stereotypes and needing real, authentic connection land today? How does it speak to the hidden struggles young people, maybe even all of us, face now?
That's a really good question. Definitely something to think about.